Hey everybody, this is Kelly. Welcome back to another episode of Ask a Therapist. Today we're answering the question, why don't therapists give advice? Because we don't have all the answers? Maybe we do and you just don't listen to it. Why do you think we don't give advice? There are three main reasons why therapists do not give advice. The first one is the extraordinarily technical one, and I'm going to put a picture right up here for you so that you can see specifically what I'm talking about. In the American Counselor Association, ACA, Code of Ethics, there are a couple of things that outline the reasons that we don't give advice. Number one is in section A1 called Client Welfare, and in A1A, very first thing in A1, it says that the primary responsibility of a counselor is to respect the dignity and promote the welfare of the client. It doesn't entirely respect the dignity of the client if I were to tell my client when they come in to talk to me what they should do. That doesn't treat them as an autonomous person, and it does not respect their personal understanding of life, their experiences. It removes their ability to develop those skills to do these things for themselves. Also then in A4, under the heading Avoiding Harm and Imposing Values, A4B reads, counselors are aware of and avoid imposing their own values, attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors. It goes on to include the fact that counselors are to respect the diversity of everyone they work with, clients, research partners, anyone they come in contact with, and if they are not schooled in diverse understandings in certain areas, or if they are in danger of imposing their values in certain areas, they're supposed to seek out specific training in order to not do that. Specifically, when a counselor's goals are inconsistent with the client or are discriminatory in nature. Breaking that one down is a little bit painful for me because the thing that comes first to mind for myself is counselors who participate in conversion therapy. By the ACA Code of Ethics, a counselor who does not believe that homosexuality is an acceptable way to be should not counsel people who find themselves to be gay and are okay with it. In the most basic form of this, it literally says that the American Counselor Association finds conversion therapy to be unethical. That's a whole other topic. I will link my conversion therapy video to this video and you can read a little more on that. But the bottom line is that it is not ethical for a counselor to impose their beliefs on their client. Reason number two is the power dynamic of therapy itself. If I have a client that comes in to talk to me and they want to talk about things going on in their life, they are coming in to me as a professional. So we're already in a power dynamic that is not one of equals. If our power dynamic was equal, they would just go talk to a friend. So they're coming in to talk to me specifically as not a peer. At that point, it's not about age or familiarity, but that is one of the reasons that it's not ethical for counselors to actually give paid specific therapy to their friends. As a professional, if I tell you to do something, or if I say, well, I think maybe you should do it this way, it's going to carry more weight and it will sway certain things. Because I am the professional, the things that I say to you are going to have more weight. It's an abuse of power for a counselor to directly tell you what to do. Now, anybody who's been in therapy before knows that perception plays a lot into it. And I know I and probably many other therapists out there have had an experience where a client will say, oh, you told me to do this, and I said no such thing. So there's a pretty quick test that you can run for yourself that will help you to know whether or not your therapist is trying to push you in a certain direction or whether or not that's just your perception. Now, in a perfect world, you would say, hey, therapist, I feel like you would prefer me to do this, and then give them a moment to respond. That can be really hard. And so there's a 3-part test that you can do to help you maybe discern whether or not the therapist is trying to direct you in a certain way or not. Question 1, ask yourself, what supporting facts do I have to back up the idea that my therapist does not approve of a choice I have made or am making? Factual data, things they have said, not your interpretation of things they have said, but what have they said, or what do you know that creates this opinion for you that they do not approve? Because question number 2 is, what non-factual things am I basing this on? Did they sigh? Did you feel like they made a face? Do you feel like they're disinterested when you say certain things? Do you feel like they are more supportive of one option than another? Do they smile more when you talk about one option? Those sort of things. What non-factual but still observed things do you have to back this up? And then number 3 is also Occam's razor. what is the most plausible answer based on the things that I wrote for 1 and 2? Look at the facts, look at your perception, and then say, what is most reasonably true based on these 2 things? And if you feel then like your therapist is trying to guide you in a certain way, you do have things to back you up to have you go in and talk to them about that. I know for me, if I had a client come in and say, hey, so I felt like you were trying to sway me in this direction and I don't really feel comfortable with that. Can we talk about that? I would love to talk to them about that, because one of 2 things is happening. Either I am subconsciously responding out of my emotions and not out of my training. That can happen because I am human. Or they are processing something because of our power dynamic that has them going off in a very different direction than what I intend. And if that is the case, then we can kind of work through that and maybe work through some of their issues with power dynamics and some of their issues with assumptions and get them to a more whole and healthy and happy place. The third and final reason why therapists do not give advice is very simple. It's not about us. It's about you. The time in our sessions is for you, for your processing, for your story, for your decision making, for the furthering of your life and well-being. That's for you. I break that up into 4 parts. It's what does my client want, need, feel, or perceive? So want, what are your goals in counseling? What are your goals for your life? What are your goals for this decision you are trying to make? And then you have need. What is your need, real or perceived, that is being met by coming into counseling? What is your need that's being met by a certain decision you're making? What is your need that's being met by a certain way that you're processing things? Feel, what is it that you're feeling? What are your feelings? Do you know your feelings? Do you have a handle on what they're called? What are their names and how do they affect you? And perceive, what do you assume about the outcomes of counseling, about the outcomes of our session? Through asking myself, what does this client want, need, feel, and perceive? Understanding all of those things helps me to help you to create those tools and create those coping mechanisms and create those decision-making abilities that are probably in you, but so many things have happened that you're doubting your abilities. It's important to understand that therapists are totally permitted to disclose what they feel necessary to their clients in order to help their clients the best they can. It's an individual therapist kind of a thing. Some therapists don't disclose anything about their lives. Everything they do is on super lockdown. They don't want any of that stuff out there. And that is a completely valid way for them to be. There are other therapists who do share in a session. And if they've been seeing somebody for a couple of years, that person might know their spouse's name. That person might know a restaurant they frequent. It really is up to the individual therapist and their relationship with that client to decide those kind of things that they share. When it comes to more than that, if a therapist discloses that they are a survivor of a trauma, if they disclose, this is what I did when I was going through a divorce, if they disclose other things like that, that is taken under careful consideration for each therapist for the situation they're in. And the reason for that is all the things that I've said before, the power dynamic, the ethics of the situation. How much is my disclosing information to you about you and helping you through what you're going through? And how much of it is my desire to be seen and known? It's never okay to disclose out of our own desire to be seen and known because it's not about us. If that is happening for a therapist, there's a whole slew of different things that they can do to help themselves. This is not that video, but it's important for you to know if you feel like your therapist is oversharing, it could be one of 2 things. Your therapist might be oversharing and they might have some boundary issues. Also, maybe it's not the style of therapy that you're needing. So yeah, that is the reason why therapists do not give advice. Thank you for joining me this week. Hope to catch you next week. If you enjoyed this, make sure you subscribe, click the like button, check out my other videos, leave me a question in the comments. I would love to answer your question next. Have a great day.